The coalition government's man in Scotland, or is it Scotland's man in the cabinet, is the Secretary of State Michael Moore, who's one of 11 Scottish Liberal Democrat MPs. A short while ago he joined me here. I reminded him that the review would limit employment support allowance to 1 year for people assessed as able to work, and asked how many people would be affected in Scotland.
We're still working through the numbers on this, but remember we're introducing the work programme, which will ensure that we get a much
roughly
simpler...
how many people will be affected?
I don't have that figure to hand at the moment. We're looking...
But you must have some figure, because in order to make the projections of the effect on the budget, you must know how many people will be affected.
Across the United Kingdom as a whole, we are making assumptions about how this will work out.
But you don't know how many in Scotland?
No, we don't know that figure.
Don't you think, as the Secretary of State for Scotland, and as this is a programme which is reserved to your government, you really ought to have asked?
As part of the spending review, there are a lot of different decisions that have been made and continue to be looked at in the detail. The important point, Gordon, is that we are making a major reform to the way in which we help people to get back into work and to help them to get out of incapacity benefit and other benefits, where some people have been stuck on them for many, many years. And we're focusing on those who will be able to get back into work. There are pilots going on at the moment in Aberdeen.
I'm sorry, I find it extraordinary that you don't even have a rough idea how many people will be affected by this.
Well, we are at the stage...
I find that absolutely extraordinary.
Well, we're at the stage now of introducing a major reform which will be discussed, is being consulted on at the present time. We've got pilots working in different parts of the United Kingdom, and we're determined to ensure that the problems we've had with worklessness, with people stuck on benefits for decades can be ended, and we can actually get a whole different way of looking to get folk into work.
Let's take an example. There are some areas of Glasgow where if you add unemployment to labour inactivity, the percentage of the working population out of the labour market is well over 50%. If you're someone on this allowance, formerly incapacity benefit, who's been assessed as able to do some work, and you live in one of these areas of Glasgow, and now your benefit's going to be cut off in a year, what would you suggest that these people do?
Well, the whole point of this, and remember Ian Duncan Smith...
but in practical terms, what would you suggest they do now?
Well, the important point is that they will get assistance to help them find work.
What assistance?
Assistance in the work programme, which is being developed over the course of the next few months.
Okay.
That will be announced
let me ask you a very simple question.
During next year.
This work programme will be operated by some private companies, by voluntary groups. If I am one of these people in an area of Glasgow with extremely high labour inactivity, and I've been assessed, I'm formerly on incapacity benefit, it's been assessed I might be capable of doing some work, and one of these organisations genuinely tries to get me a job, and within a year they can't do it, do I still lose my benefit?
The important point is that we will have the support there to whether there are a lot of different ways in which this will be able to work. We are not going to allow a situation where people get trapped in benefits for year after year.
I'm just asking.
And
the trouble is, you don't seem to know either how this new system is going to work or how many people it's going to affect.
Well, the system is, the process of developing the system is still underway. The important point is that for generations we have failed to tackle the problems of parts of Glasgow and elsewhere. We need to have a new way of looking at employability. The scheme that Ian Duncan Smith and DWP...
all you're doing is outlining how the scheme... Let me ask you something else. The Scottish Government claims that the actual cut to its budget next year is £1.3 billion, not the £900 million that you claim it is.
They got that projection wrong, and the good news for Scotland from today, in its very tough circumstances, is that the budget is going to be better than people, including the Scottish Government, had anticipated. And if you look across the UK as a whole, in terms of frontline services, the arrangements for Scotland are better than other parts of the United Kingdom.
Given that you don't know either how many people are affected or the details of how they will work for programmes that are within the Coalition's area of responsibility, why should we believe you and not the Scottish Government when it comes to talking about figures which aren't within your area of responsibility?
The figures that have been published today by the Treasury are figures that were discussed and agreed with the Scottish Government in terms of baselines. They are figures that look forward for the next 4 years and have set out the results of a comprehensive spending review which has looked at every sphere of government spending north and south of the border and sets us now on a path which will help us to get out of the legacy of Labour's public finance deficit of £155 billion, the worst in peacetime history, and get us back on a track where we can actually begin to address some of Scotland's deep-seated problems.
The analysis in the document you published today shows that the effect of both, when you add together the budget and the CSR, the worst hit are the poorest in society. Does that make you proud as a Liberal Democrat?
The analysis that you're focusing on doesn't take account of all the different parts of the budget and the spending review. It doesn't factor in the universal credit that is being introduced. It doesn't factor in some of the factors to do with the child premium. If you look at the page 100, the table on page 100 of the document, you'll see there the combined impact of the changes, and that shows that over the piece, the difficult decisions of this spending review and the budget and other spending reviews announcements earlier in the year is actually being shared by all people. The people with the broadest shoulders financially are taking most of the burden.